Hi, I'm Denise and I'm the founder and therapist of Infinite Hope Counselling. I wanted to come on today to do another in a short series of videos around common threads and themes in the counselling space. You may have had a chance to see some of my other posts. They're on my YouTube channel or on my Facebook page or website. Please check them out if you're interested. If you are interested and enjoy the videos, then please like and subscribe and it will notify you when I post. So I'm going to start this with a little apology. A couple of my followers have noticed that I have not posted in the last couple of weeks. Apologies for this. There's a lot going on family-wise, and it's a busy time of year, so it's just a chance of, I haven't had chance to actually record. So today I'm going to talk to you about a trauma-specific theme. So you'd have seen from my other videos that I cover things like being an emotional orphan, family dynamics, which could affect any of us, any one of us. But most people know who are watching this that I'm a trauma therapist. So a lot of the themes I look at are specific to trauma. And this is really one of those. So I'm going to look at bystanders today, and I'm aware that, these videos are based on my observations, my thoughts, my feelings, what's in my head, how I've experienced things. So there may be others with different opinions or describe things differently or see things a different way, and that's absolutely fine. But to sort of go into this a little bit, a bystander really is the term used for someone who is aware of the trauma you've experienced, has a feeling, kind of knew something, didn't say anything. And a really good example of this, and although this isn't actually that specific to trauma, or depends how traumatic it's been, is bullying. Many people are bullied at school, and the teachers do know or did know, and especially if you grew up in the 80s like I did and 90s, it was, it's only a few names, toughen it up. So there were people that knew that could have had an impact by changing the events that didn't. So if we think of that in the wider context, that's quite huge. So specifically when people will come to me and talk about sexual violence, often they think it's very hidden. They've not told somebody, and there's obviously a lot of fear around being believed and the shame that we can carry for these events. So they don't think, or they assume that people in their lives haven't noticed. But if you take it into the scenario of a relationship where it's long standing, most people have witnessed things, or they'll say, I had a feeling about that person, but they never actually stepped forward, changed anything, made a difference. And that can be really painful. And particularly with childhood sexual abuse, this is something that happens often. There are so many clients I've worked with that have tried in one way or another to tell a parent, a trusted adult, someone in their lives, their sibling, and they've either been told to be quiet and it's minimised, don't talk about such things because it seems unpalatable, or it's that they're exaggerating what they've done. Oh no, that wasn't like that, you've misunderstood. And as they grow up, they tell themselves the same messages. So the clients, by the time they get to me, have this reinforced message of, it's my fault, I did something wrong, it didn't happen, it was only once. And that feeds into trauma minimization, which was one of my previous videos. This is really important to discuss, because what happens when you do acknowledge the trauma and you say, I've been through this, I can now, recognize that this was a traumatic event that I shouldn't have had to go through, but I did. And then you recognize that you told someone and they didn't act. And it's normally people in our lives that we love and we're close to. So there's this sense of being let down. And, some of my clients are conflicted between, do I then say to this person, you let me down, you didn't protect me? And sometimes they have those conversations and what they get back is, oh, you're misremembering. They're gaslit into being told that that's not what happened. And sometimes that's just because it's so painful and unpalatable to the person they've told, because they didn't do something that they misremember, or they twist the truth slightly. So if you're someone who's experienced trauma, and actually you can obviously recognize a bystander who did nothing, that's painful and difficult and hard. But it's even worse when you're not sure if people knew, or you're not sure if someone had an inkling, whether you don't know if they did know, or you can't see how they couldn't know, but they've never named it. And the problem is with things like sexual abuse or any abuse is that there's a shame cycle with it. So we minimise to survive. And we don't often say, this affected me, this happened to me, I struggled with this. because we're told not to. We're also being threatened a lot of the time by the abuser to keep quiet, otherwise there's repercussions. So it leaves the person who's experienced a trauma in a really difficult situation. And the amount of times in therapy this knowledge or acknowledgement of the being a bystander who did know the story or part of their story comes to light is huge. And it's so impactful to the people that experience it that it decimates relationships, it can annihilate trust, it can make someone second guess themselves. It can also feed into that shame dynamic of, well, did I tell them hard enough, or did I actually say it right? And again, we're back to self-blame, self-sabotage, and all of those unhelpful responses. So the reason I wanted to bring this up is because I think, especially recently in the media with cases like the Russell Brand case and previous cases like Jimmy Savile, it's not just the perpetrator that's the issue. It's not just the person who's doing the crime that's the issue. It's the web around them of people that turn the other cheek, shrug off a feeling, don't say anything, that are the issue. And especially with sexual assault, I think this is quite common. You know, if you've ever been on a train, especially things like tubes in London, and you've seen someone press up against someone else or deliberately graze someone's chest, then you're a bystander. Now, everyone has to live their life by their own moral compass and do what's right for them. And a lot of people are scared to speak out because they think that there'll be some repercussion and they're worried about getting it wrong. And anyone who knows me knows that I'm absolutely the opposite. I would rather be told a million times I'm wrong, shouted at, screamed at, accused of anything than not speak out. And I think when you've experienced trauma, you're more passionate about trying to protect those that have no voice. So if you have experienced trauma and you're aware of your bystanders, it's okay to acknowledge all the feelings that surround that, from the pain and the upset to the being let down to the fear that you can't trust them. Well, it's good to reach out for help and support to talk about it. And if you're someone who is yet to acknowledge their trauma fully or not sure how to process it, it's okay. This takes time and it's not easy. So the reason we wanted to talk about bystanders is because for those people who have turned the other cheek, looked the other way, shrugged you off, told you to be quiet, told you not to talk of such things, they're the people really that need to sit and think about what their actions or lack of action has led to. And for those people who are having those conversations with those bystanders, I hope you get the acknowledgement you need. Or maybe you don't need acknowledgement. Everyone's different. But I think it's an important topic to raise because so often, especially in these high profile cases, yes, the perpetrator gets taken to task, which is important, but often they can't perpetrate without the people's help that are around them. And someone like Jimmy Savile, if we think about the hospital systems, the prison systems, the BBC, the palace, all of these accesses to these high profile, literally given the keys to places, he couldn't perpetrate in the way he did if he wasn't allowed to have access to those things. And I get often asked about dramatisations of things, like I know there's been one on recently about Jimmy Savile, and I really try and stay away from them. If it's a documentary and it's based around the victim impact, then I think it's good to watch and it's good to have the awareness. But I'm very cautious about glamorization of any kind of abuse or trauma. And it's interesting, if anyone's watched the Jimmy Savile one, I watched the first episode and there's already these people being seen to be questioning if he was okay or not to do what he was. And if that's the truth, which I don't believe, then that shows the bystanders, the amount of bystanders that just shrug to turn the other cheek. Oh, he can do what he wants. And so I think this is where culturally we need to change. I would always appeal to someone, if you think you've seen something or you have a feeling or you're unsure, speak to Childline, speak to the NSPCC, Google it. There's live chat facilities on most of these places to talk about what you might have seen and what you can do. But also you might need help and support. Unfortunately, like many people, I've witnessed some tragic things in my life. And even as a therapist, I've reached out for help and support to make sense of them. And I think we have to normalise not holding it to yourself. So I could talk about this subject all day. I'm aware I've gone all around the Reeking, but if this has been helpful, then great. And if you want to send any comments or questions, if you want to explore what it was like to know you have a bystander to your trauma, then please reach out for help. If you want to explore trauma and you're unsure what happened, who knew what it is, then also reach out for help. And if you're a bystander that's never felt they were able to speak out, talk to somebody, even if it's not the person that you've witnessed their trauma. You don't have to hold those secrets. You don't have to protect someone. Talk about it, and I think it's really important to remember that people don't often act in malicious ways. They're not intentionally trying to hurt someone else. Sometimes bystanders just can't have the tolerance to hold that thought of what sinisterly could be going on. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I will be doing some videos on the run up to Christmas around the threads and themes in the counselling space. I've got a few more to do that I've been requested. I will also do some more specific videos towards the festive season around family dynamics, coping with Christmas and getting through it. I know for many of us we enjoy Christmas and it's a positive time of year, but for so many it's difficult, and particularly this year, thinking of the conflicts in the world and also the cost of living crisis. People are finding things really tough. So we'll have a bit of an exploration about how you can keep yourself safe and self-care strategies. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you soon. Bye for now.